What's going on, everybody? Nick here, and in this video I'm going to show you how to connect WordPress with make.com. We are going to use AI to take a bunch of posts in a Google Sheet, our content calendar, and then turn those into full-fledged, beautiful WordPress posts. I'll show you how to install the make connector onto WordPress, how to do the connection properly. This is an integration I know some people struggle with. And ultimately I'm going to show you how to build a stem for one of the highest ROI WordPress content production machines you'd probably think of. So you could sell the system to people, you'd use the system in your own business or maybe your clients' businesses. Whatever you choose to do with it is up to you. If that sounds like something y'all are interested in, stay tuned and let's get into the clip. All right, first thing we have here is our WordPress instance open. I have a page called sample page. I've just opened this one up just to show you guys what WordPress looks like today. I haven't done anything to this website aside from just spin it up. I have the SiteGround instance. That's my host. Just create a new WordPress page on nickw102.sghost.com. So totally new website. And over the course of the next few minutes, I'll show you how to connect make.com effectively. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect this to a blog page. That will pull from this spreadsheet that I just set up. And what the spreadsheet is this is a list of blog posts that are hosted as Google Docs. That is basically being arranged in sort of a content calendar here, or whatever you want to call it, like a queue, a calendar, whatnot. And these are posts that are generated fully using artificial intelligence, using one of the outline sort of article generation systems that I've developed before. The columns here are, first we have the title, then we have the word count, then we have the primary keyword, the secondary keywords. We provide some internal links, external links. There's some instructions that we give to the AI model. Then we have an outline that's generated. If I pop open the outline, this is basically what they look like. Article is 10 effective ways to nurture mental health at work. And you see there's some bullet points here on, how to do so and that sort of thing. And then there's the actual document that is generated. And this is the thing that we are going to be putting on WordPress. We're going to be basically pulling this document from this Google Sheet and then automatically populating a WordPress instance. And it's going to look really nice and pretty. One really unfortunate thing about Google Docs is it doesn't default add spaces between paragraphs. So, it doesn't really look as presentable sort of right off the bat. But WordPress nowadays handles a lot of that for you. So this will be perfectly formatted with all the WordPress stuff, the font style, the color choices, everything's gonna be really nice. And yeah, the purpose of the system is, again, just to automate the process of posting content. I don't think that the posting should be a very time-intensive activity, considering most of the leverage is in producing the content, making sure that it's really good, editing it, QAing it, that sort of deal. There's no real reason why just the physical action of posting has to take more than 2 seconds nowadays. We basically live in the future. So yeah, I'm gonna be setting all this stuff up in make.com, and I have a little scenario instance open here. But in order to connect WordPress to make, it's not enough just to open up a make scenario and then click a button and then automatically connect. You actually need to go on WordPress and then download a plugin called the make connector. And this is where most people, I think, sort of muck up. The make connector looks like this. It's by Make's parent company here. And essentially it's just the way that, Make gets the API keys and the credentials from the WordPress instance in order to just make everything nice and hunky-dory. So first thing that I'm going to do is I have another page here called blog, and this is where we're going to be populating the blog posts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to plugins, then I'll go to add new plugin, and then I'm just going to type in make connector here. And then the very first result, the one that we want, is the one that has over 20K active installations. From personal experience, be careful when you're downloading WordPress plugins, because sometimes people will try and copy the design and the title and all that stuff of a WordPress plugin, just so they can get all your website data. They say that everything on the store is nice and checked and that sort of thing, but I don't know. I don't always believe that. Anyway, once you're done, click refresh now. When you go back to the installed plugins, you'll see this make connector here. And then if you scroll down, there'll be an API key. And this API key is essentially a thing that allows you to directly connect Make to this WordPress website. So what I'll do now is I'll go to my scenario. And the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna connect to Google Sheet, and I'm just gonna go to the search rows module, because that's just what we're gonna be using for this. And I'm just gonna verify that the output of the search rows module works. Now I think We're getting a failed to load data here, probably because I need to make a new connection, which is unfortunate. Let me see if maybe there's a new one. Yeah, you know what? I think this is the new one. I was doing some other scenario earlier today, and I was running into the same issue. So every now and then your scenario is your connection is going to disconnect. And I'm doing it on this email address, so I'm just going to pump this in, and then I'll manually redo the connection. Okay. So now I'm connected to the email that I want, and then what I'm looking for is something called Content Calendar. So I'm going to go Content Calendar. And then I'm just going to leave maximum number of returned rows to 1. Excuse me. And I'm just going to test this puppy. I think I closed it just a little bit too fast. Let's open this back up, click OK. Those little red dots are going to disappear. And then right click, run once, and then boom. I got exactly one result. And the way that this result is organized is it is the first one in the row. So it's just pulling kind of like number 2. If I were to get 2 results at a time, it'd pull number 2 and 3. If I got 3 results, it'd be 2 to 4, and then 2 to 5, and so on and so on and so forth. For the purpose of the demonstration, I will do multiple, but I just want to test it on one first. And I highly recommend that anytime you guys are developing make.com flows, you just test it on one. But anyway, this isn't really the secret sauce. We're just like pulling a row from Google Sheet, right? What we really want is we want this WordPress module. So go over to WordPress, and then the one that I want is down here called Create a Post. But I encourage you guys to spend a few minutes and just scroll through all of the other ones as well. Like what you could do is you could connect your make to WordPress, and then you could watch to see when a new post is updated, and then that might trigger a bunch of other stuff. So one flow that's pretty common is you'll have some secret, you'll have one like single source of truth for all of your content. Maybe that's like this Google Sheet here. And then all of the scenarios will be updated based off that. So there'll be a scenario that watches new rows in the Google Sheet. And then when somebody puts in a new row with a Google document or something, it'll trigger this scenario maybe, and then this scenario will add it to WordPress. But then you have a bunch of other scenarios that will watch the WordPress posts. And then when a WordPress post is generated, it'll then, summarize that, turn that into like a LinkedIn teaser, a Facebook teaser, an Instagram teaser. It'll generate some images using AI or something like that. And then in that way, it'll like syndicate it to 10, 15, 20 different places. Maybe it'll auto cross post it to Medium. Maybe it'll make a Reddit post, right? You have a lot of potential in multiplying the effectiveness of your content efforts. And usually like, having all of your content in a single source of truth is the best way to accomplish this. So anywho, scroll through here and look to see all of the other options. There are tons. The one that I want is the Create a Post. And now comes the magic. We're going to create the connection. First thing we have to do is I'm going to go back here, copy this API token, paste it in here. And then I need to get my REST API base URL. Now the REST API base URL sounds really fancy, but it's not. It's just the URL of your website. So mine's nickw102.sg-host.com because I'm doing this on SiteGround. What I want to do is I basically want to do this and then just go wp-json. So get the URL of the website that I have, nickw102.sg-host.com, and then just go /wp.json, and then do a final backslash at the end there. Then I click save. This is now connected to my WordPress instance, and now I can automatically just generate posts as is, right? And what we'll do is we're just going to test to make sure that this works. So I'll say, this is my test post. This is my test content. This type is a post. In WordPress, you have different types. You can do like a page, you can do a post, you could do like a navigation menu, font family, whatever. And then the excerpt, we're just gonna like, I don't know. This is an example of the power of make.com and WordPress. The date, I'm just gonna store it as now. Slug, you can even generate a slug if you want. So I don't know, we could just grab the title and then lowercase it. And then you can choose whether you want to publish it, whether you want to draft it, whether you want to pending it, whatever. I'm just going to click publish. You have a bunch of different formats here because WordPress, like every new generation of WordPress includes like a bunch of new features for blog posts. So this is like an aside, a chat. It could be like an audio, a video, whatever. I'm not going to put any information in here because it's not relevant to me. If you had categories, you could categorize it. You can also categorize it automatically. We could do that using AI or something. We're not going to do that right now. The author is just going to be me. And we could do the same thing. We could like automatically generate tags if you wanted to, but I'm not going to worry about it. Since we're just testing, I'm going to right click and run this module only. And this is now going out. It's actually publishing all of the data that I sent it. So this is my test post, this is my test post, author is me, just one, publish, this is my test content. This is an example of the power of make.com and WordPress. So if we go back here and then I go to posts, we now see the test post that has been published, and it was published just now. My time zones are a little bit wonky, but this is basically 6 hours ahead. And yeah, it was published at 2:08 a.m., which is exactly 6 hours before. If I click view, you'll see the post. First we have the title, then we have the content field, and then we also have the excerpt. You can't actually read the excerpt unless you're like at a page that is listing all of the blog posts, but yeah, it has all the data that we need. So that's pretty straightforward. Why don't we actually do this in practice now? If I go back to my blog, just refresh, let's see if this pops up too. No, it's not popping up. I wonder why. Maybe it's laggy or something like that. Maybe we got to purge the cache. Oh yeah, we did have to purge the cache because when I went to edit, you see the test post here. That's pretty cool. I like that all this stuff's popping up. But this is already giving me WordPress PTSD. I used to be a WordPress dev way back in the day, and holy crap, the cache was like my worst nightmare. It was insanely buggy. And it would just constantly like defy logic. I'd be like, I swear to God I did that. And then, because the cache wasn't updated or whatever, it wouldn't show up. So that's a good example of that. But yeah, why don't we actually do this with real data now? So I'm going to keep the row count to just 1 because we're going to test this out on 1 row at a time. And then I'm just going to pull in like the title field. I'll pull in everything. So the title is here. The content is going to be the content of the Google Docs. We're actually going to have to pull that up here. I got a little bit ahead of myself, but well, I'll show you how to do that in a second. Then we need posts. Then we need the excerpt. The way that we could do the excerpt is we could just feed in the content, and then we could split the first sentence. So we could only get the first sentence of the post, and then we could just standardize that and make that the excerpt. We could also feed this into AI and have it generate an excerpt. That might be pretty neat. Make this video a little bit chunkier. Yeah, okay, maybe I'll do that. The slug, we could just grab the title, and then we could strip all of the characters that like break titles. So a character that breaks the title is like a colon, for instance. We could strip those. That may be more trouble than it's worth, if I'm honest. Might be better just to use the primary keyword and then just to make it lowercase, and then to replace all new lines or spaces, with dashes. That's probably better. That way we'll, potentially gain a little bit of link juice from the primary keyword as well. Maybe that's helpful. Yeah, let's go with that. And then the rest of this is going to be that. So let me just put an X in the content, and then why don't we go get the content from the Google Doc. I'll go to Google Doc, and I want to get the content of a document. I'm going to need to feed in this new connection. And then, okay, so we have kind of a problem here, right? Because this Google Doc module, in order to get the content of the document, we need to feed it a document ID. But if you go over here to the article doc, like there's no just article ID field here. It's actually nestled within the URL. Basically everything after this /d/, this is the ID before the /edit ? So if we assume that this format's going to be the same all the time, then we can actually extract the ID pretty easily just using a little bit of like make logic. But what I'll do here is just to make this even simpler and easier for people that are doing this at home or maybe downloading the blueprint, is I'm going to set a variable, actually not just one, I'll set multiple variables. And then I'm going to call this just Google Doc ID. And then what I want is we just want this section here, basically all of this. So if you think about it, there are multiple ways that we could do this. We could split this, for instance, at /document/D, and then we could split it again at /edit, and then we could grab the first result of that second split, and then the second result of the first split. We could regex this, so we could pump in this URL, and then have like a little bracket here, and then just say this. If there was like a regex module, which there is, and it would probably look something like this. We got a lot of options, but for interpretability reasons, I'm just going to do like the split thing because I've talked about it a lot in previous videos, and I think that's just a little bit faster. So I'm actually just going to do it down here. I'll say split, And then I'm going to feed in the article doc. And where I want to split it is I want to split it at /d/. And basically at /d/, I want everything before this to be one and then everything after this to be another part, essentially. I'm splitting it right down that /d/. This is going to be like a knife through this whole string. And then what I want to do is I want to get the second result. If we split this string into two parts, the first part we don't really need, it's just the Google Doc part, right? It's kind of pointless and useless to us. What we want is we want this chunk. And then what we want to do after this is we want to split this again, but I want to split this based off of the presence of this /edit. And then I want to get the first result. So what doing this will do, essentially, what I'm going to do by doing this is I'm just going to like cut this twice, and then every time I cut it, I'm just going to grab the specific part of the string that I want. And for the purposes of this demonstration, let me just copy and paste this in and run this module separately. I just copied in one of the one of the big URLs here, and I'll show you how this works. First, we're going to cut that out, and we're going to get all this. And then next, we're going to cut this out, and then we're just going to get this. Let's click OK. And then the end result is we have the ID basically listed under the Google Doc ID parameter. And that's good for us because now we can just feed in that Google Doc ID to the get content of a document module. And I'm just going to test this first 3 sections. So I'm just going to disconnect this, and then I'm just going to run this puppy. So we're getting the URL, and we just got the Google Doc. Okay, so what happens after you get the content of a document? We got the correct one, right? 10 effective ways to nurture mental health at work. So you get a bunch of different fields here. You get body, you get document style, you get name styles, lists, inline objects, right? Text content. You also get this content array, which is very interesting, but it's like way too complicated for our purposes. Basically, it's like a line by line breakdown of every piece of content, including like the title and the title style. And you can technically use this to rebuild the entire article if you want. But personally, I find that this is just way too much work, and it's not really worth the time. So what I do is I just kind of cheat and I go down to text content, which is just a giant text chunk of the whole article. And then I'm just going to be pasting that in. So that's what I'm going to use here. If I go create a post, we can now feed in the text content, which was, where the hell was text content? Am I completely blind? Totally got some text content, right? But I'm not seeing this text. Oh, yeah, okay. I am actually blind. Okay, great. And then the excerpt, why don't we do some AI stuff? It'll be funky to show you guys the power of the dockside. Now, to show you how useful some quick and simple GPT prompts can be when you chuck them in, I'm going to use GPT-4o here. I'm going to drop in a system prompt, call this a helpful, intelligent writing assistant. I'm then going to say, your job is to create short excerpts from articles for WordPress posts. Excerpts should be between, let's say, like 20 to 50 words long, and briefly summarize what the article talks about. I trust this so much, not even going to feed in any training. I'm just going to feed in the text content, and we're just going to grab whatever the output of this is. We're just going to feed this into WordPress as the excerpt. So I'm just going to grab the result variable here. And then, yeah, that should be good. Why don't we actually try this out now? Just save the scenario. I'm going to click run once, and we're just going to do this on one article at a time. See how fast that was. Super quick. Then I'm going to go back to posts here, give us a quick refresh, and we'll see that we now have an article called AI and Process Automation, Expectations versus Reality. Now, the big problem that you probably see immediately is that this is not formatted correctly. Now, this looks kind of ugly, if I'm being honest. And I imagine the main reason why is because there's no formatting. So what would be pretty cool is if we could turn this article into like a WordPress acceptable format, which would have to be Markdown, essentially. and then have that like markup headings and stuff like that. What I mean is if we go like I don't know, something like this, for instance, then we automatically turn that into a heading, right? So that's my personal take on things. I think we could probably improve this substantially. So let me just see here. Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, I have no idea if this is going to work. So why don't we actually test this out? Why don't we create a post here? And why don't I copy this first? And I'm just going to edit this really quickly. We're just going to do like example markdown post. What I'm going to do is this is an introduction, and then I'll go, this is a heading 2. Then I'll go, this is a bullet point. And then I'll, I don't think I can do that. I kind of forget how to do a markdown link. I think it was like something. Whatever, I don't need that. This will be sufficient to tell me whether or not this works. We're not gonna do any excerpt here, and then this log is just going to be example MD post. That looks good to me. And then I'm just gonna run this and see if we can just convert this thing into markdown. That'd be really helpful. So why don't I go back to the blog now? I'll just leave this ugly post where it's this example markdown post, and no, it's still not being converted into sexy headings and stuff. We may need to use HTML now that I'm thinking about it. Why don't I go H2? And then why don't I go list item? And I think we got to go unordered list, and then we got to go /unordered list. This might work. If it doesn't, I'm going to throw my head at the wall violently. Be this one here. Okay, great. Yeah, so HTML works. We can't actually use Markdown. My bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this now, and this post. If we run this thing up into the AI part again, just to get a feel for what the content looks like. This text content here is not really in a format that we can use to, it's in an okay format, but it's not, we can't use it to automatically add headings and stuff like that where we need to. What we could do is we could go through this body content and then iterate through this whole thing. What we would do is we'd be building the WordPress post through this, essentially like getting the HTML of a document. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to have AI convert the plain text back into HTML format, and then I'm going to publish that HTML format instead. So we have a couple of modules here. Obviously, this is a really simple one, which creates an excerpt. I'm just going to run these in succession. And then this one's going to be convert to HTML. And then I'm going to go over here, and then I'll say your job is to turn plain text into HTML markup for WordPress. Wrap headings with H tags, bullet points with LI, etc. I think it's probably going to do a pretty good job of this as is. So I'm just going to let that be. And then I'm going to take this HTML, and then I'm going to use this HTML, not this markdown, to, feed in this text content here. I'm going to delete this other post. Okay, we got some real-time problem solving over here. Beautiful. So creating the excerpt's pretty fast. Converting this HTML is probably going to be pretty fast as well. Keep in mind this is sort of silly because the previous step in my AI content generator is it does it all in HTML, does it all in Markdown, and then it converts that into HTML anyway. So if you wanted to connect this directly to that part of the flow, it'd be substantially easier because you just feed the HTML indirectly, but whatever. We're just assuming that you're faced with a big Google sheet of a bunch of URLs here, and I think that's a reasonable use case. Now, because this is way longer, right? We're basically feeding in a full article, and I think that article is like 1,500 words or something like that. It's going to take a fair amount of time to generate. It's not going to be, immediate, not like this excerpt. This excerpt is like one paragraph, right? So we're probably going to need like at least 20 or 30 times that. And you are going to be spending a little bit of money in token cost. We can calculate what that looks like by doing the math here. But I imagine still it's really not going to be that much. Probably going to be like an extra few seconds. Extra, I don't know, like few cents. So this looks pretty good to me. Converting them into p tags and h2s and so on and so forth. There are some issues here with this HTML, like it added a triple little back tick or whatever it's called, HTML. That's just because this is like, it's just a convention when you're generating code to say what the coding language is. So we could probably solve this by training the model a little bit better or adding like an additional prompt before this to remove this part. And we could also train it to not include this first heading. The way that you do that is you just write, don't include the first heading, don't include blah, 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 HTML, and it'll probably be fine. So yeah, why don't I do that? Don't include the first heading. Don't include HTML, 3, yeah. Message except for the article itself. Okay. And I'm just going to run this again just so we can do it while I'm running through the rest of this piece. So when we take these out, oops, we're going to convert all these to blocks, and I'm going to go over here. What's going to happen is this will be gone, and then this will be gone as well. Which will, make it nicely formatted essentially. And it looks like everything is pretty good. There was an extra bullet point here, just one. Not really sure why that happened. It could just be the AI bugging out. And then these will be removed when it picks up our instructions. So that's pretty good. Yeah, I like that. I mean, really the only thing that's left would just be that random bullet point. So let's see what happens with it. Okay, just made a couple of final edits to the prompt here. Basically just telling it what I want it to do. I said something along the lines of don't include a title, don't include a heading, and then make sure that the first section immediately after is like a paragraph or something. I was considering doing this procedurally, and if you're watching this, I obviously left in the video because I wanted to show you guys what the workflow looks like. But when you do have extremely powerful artificial intelligence, a lot of the time it's just better to use it. So this is the post that I just generated with the title. And then we have the kind of introductory section here, and then, yeah, looks very nice. So nicely formatted now, which is cool. And it was automatically posted for us, which I also enjoyed quite a bit. So that's fun. Yeah, that's more or less how you do it in, I guess now you can realistically publish a new piece of content every 30 seconds or so, if you procedurally generate it using my outline tool or my AI outline to article tool, which is pretty neat. What I'm going to do now is, why don't I just pump all of this through? Let me just delete all of the other posts here. I don't really care about them, and they're kind of ugly. And then why don't I generate all of them simultaneously? So I'm going to go over to my scenario editor here. And then I'm just going to say, how many articles do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just do 3. I don't want this to take forever. So just to show you guys that I can actually generate multiple simultaneously, we do 3. Let's do that, and then that should be good. We're gonna click run once, and I'm just gonna talk over it while it's doing its cool, sexy thing in the background. Basically, it's now feeding in all of this information, diving into the article doc. Let's open up this one now. This is number 2. Diving into the article doc. It's then pulling in all the text and then essentially using it to recreate the HTML with artificial intelligence. And then it is pushing that HTML to WordPress. WordPress is then rendering that HTML in its own fancy way. Let's check out the first post here. It's then rendering the HTML in its own fancy way with its own little heading format and kind of its block editor here. And then it's actually going through and it's publishing it, which is pretty neat. So that was number 1. We're now waiting for number 2. Keep in mind, if you're doing this at home, folks, you may not have the, you always have to worry about the rate limits. I have an extremely advanced, whatever the top tier is on the OpenAI account, because I've been using it for quite a while. But, if you're just getting into OpenAI's API, they rate limit you reasonably heavily until I think you pay at least $50 or $100 or something. So if you're starting to get some errors or whatever, that's probably why. I'm just going to leave this. Screw it. In addition to the like explicit rate limiting, you also sort of get soft throttled. The responses take longer to get back to you the more usage that you're doing. Granted, I'm still only doing what, like 3,000 tokens or something, so it's really not that big of a deal. But yeah, I guess what I'm saying is just don't be surprised if it ends up taking a little bit of additional time. Ways that you could add on to the system. As I mentioned previously, you could, like one thing that I see a lot of people do here is they will go to this WordPress module after it creates a post, and then they will add a router. And a router just allows you to split the input into like a bunch of different, trajectories. So what you could do is you could have a router, and then the first link of that router might be like a Facebook module, and it might like cross-post this article to your Facebook instead. Or it might take the link that the WordPress is outputting. You know how we have like a slug? We have the slug from a previous module. We could take this slug, add it to the base root URL, and then we could create a Facebook teaser that basically says, hey, how's it going? Just publish this new article, check it out here. And then it like actually attaches the URL to the post. And we know it's the right URL because we just created that URL ourselves, right? You could then do the same thing with like an Instagram business account. Maybe for Instagram, you have another route that like actually goes through, generates some image with AI, because it's more of an AI platform. You do this with like Twitter. You could do this with LinkedIn. LinkedIn's really big nowadays. People really like that. So maybe you could do it on like your own page, and then you might actually do it as your own personal profile as well. Make a little snippet. You could cross-post this to Medium. So I used to run a big Medium blog, which ended up getting about 2K subs, which is the crown jewel of my life. And they have like the mechanism to cross-post stuff to Medium automatically, which is pretty cool. So if I were not to actually make what I was about to tell you about, but I'd add a router, and then I might go like Facebook pages, and then I might say create a post. This might be like route number 1. Then LinkedIn, we might create a user text post, and then we might create like a page text post, or you could do it in the same route if you wanted to. You could then add like a Twitter. I think you can do this with their API. I haven't done this in quite a while. I know there was a big hubbub because they changed it. Voila, you can do that. You imagine how different social media platforms may require different work. So what you could do is you could like add GPT-3 modules that do LinkedIn specific things in the LinkedIn route, Facebook specific things in the Facebook route. You got a lot of options here, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that's, that might be how you do like a big content syndication machine. Store everything in the Google Sheet once a day or something, or maybe instead of use the search rows module, use the watch new rows module. Every time something's added, then run this puppy and then send it to all your different social media platforms. I need something like that for YouTube. I'm talking about this and I'm like, that'd actually be really convenient if I did that with YouTube. Okay, final check through here. From a formatting perspective, looks great. You even got like the list items, just copied over these case studies, which is nice. Yeah. And you can see that this works really well with like arbitrarily long posts too, right? Like it doesn't need to be really short like this first one, which is probably like 1,500 words or something. I don't know. A lot of potential here. Hopefully you guys give it a try. And yeah, a lot of potential here. If you want to use this for your own social media platform or sell this to other people, I think a lot of people would be down for that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed learning how to connect WordPress with make.com. Make sure to use that make connector. Super valuable stuff. And if you guys have any questions about, maybe syndicating content or cross-posting to various platforms or whatnot, just let me know. I know a lot of these APIs have gotten a little more locked down, especially in recent years with GPT spam. I mean, some might consider what we are currently attempting to do here GPT spam. I don't personally think so. But I know these platforms have gotten a little bit more locked down, so maybe they're not as straightforward as they used to be, but I'm more than happy to help you. Just leave a comment down below. The last thing I'll say is I really appreciate everybody that's joined my community over the course of the last few days. We are now at 373 or something. We're very close to the top, the cap of 400, which was much faster than I thought. I figured this would take like at least a month and a half, but I guess the market demand for make.com and community coaching and, a culture of constant improvement is really there. But if you guys haven't joined yet, just know that the window of opportunity is closing, and if it makes sense for you, then I'd encourage you to hop on. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Please do all that fun YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.